Being an Uber driver, something that's become highly controversial in today's time. Can you make a lot of money with Uber, or are you actually losing money? Is it safe, or is it probably the most dangerous thing you can do? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I became an Uber driver and why you might want to consider it if these reasons align with what you want. And as someone who has done it for a while and has a whole separate channel on how to be successful with Uber and Uber Eats, I'd say I'm qualified to talk about it, unlike certain people on YouTube who just talk about these numbers but haven't actually got behind the wheel, driven a few people around, and had the experience themselves. So if that interests you, stay tuned and stick around to the end, where I'll be sharing with you exactly how being an Uber driver actually played a role in me making money how I do nowadays. So let's get into it. So without stalling any further, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons why I became an Uber driver, and overall why I still recommend it based on certain goals if you have them. I'll say right off the bat that there's a lot of negative criticism of this way of making money on YouTube, and some of it comes from drivers, but some of it comes from people who have actually never done it before. Now I'm just going to be honest, I don't think they're really qualified to say. They'll run these numbers and say that, hey, you're losing money per mile, but they don't know a few factors. They don't know if you're starting your own business, and while you're talking to people in the back of your Uber ask what you do, conversation happens, and you just got yourself a new client. They're not taking into consideration that you just quit your full-time job, you're pursuing something on the side, and now you have the time to fully develop that skill set or pursue what you want to pursue. So a year or two later, you've actually stopped being an Uber driver because that allowed you to have that opportunity to pursue that. They don't talk about that, probably because they can't relate to it. And if we're going to be honest, the reason they can't relate to it is because they've never done it. All they can do is crunch these numbers in front of you. So I'm here to tell you the other side of the coin as someone who's in the personal finance niche and someone who actually was behind the wheel when it comes to being an Uber driver. I say was because I haven't driven since this pandemic started, but that's for obvious reasons. So let's get into it. And for those of y'all that are thinking that I'm saying all of that because I want to get referral money, well, guess what? Uber's changed their policies so that no one person can receive more than 50 referrals. And since I've received more than 50 referrals, I don't qualify to get referral money. So this is someone that's not being financially incentivized either. It's just a personal view and recommendation based on my experience. So let's go ahead and get into it. Reason number 1 why I became an Uber driver and why you might want to consider it if this lines up for you is the obvious one. You make money to drive. Now, the rate's going to vary depending on your particular market, but at the end of the day, you're making money to drive. And driving is something that most of us have to do in our everyday lives anyway. I know that's been kind of diminished because of the pandemic right now, but we got to remember eventually things are going to go back to normal. At least I hope so for the sake of my sanity. But seriously, they will eventually. And when that happens, people are going to get back to driving around more often. Why not just monetize that thing that you're already doing? Regardless of what you hear about it, it's still a way to make money strictly from driving. And you could always test it out in your market to see, hey, I just did driving for 1 hour and I made this much, and just evaluate, hey, would I be open to do more of this? I will say you will need some training to maximize your income, but even still, just see how much you make right off the bat. Then you can evaluate if it's worth it or not. That's a soft transition into our second reason, which is you can make money while socializing. Now, if you're a very sociable person, if you're extroverted or even introverted, but you still like talking to people, a lot of people think that just because you're introverted, you don't like talking to people. Introverted just means that it has a certain drain on you after a while. That's all it means. You still might like talking to people. And if that's the case, this is something that you're going to enjoy because people get in your car and most people are very chatty. They want to tell you about their day or ask what you do or how your day's been. And this is an honorable mention or really just an extension of this one. But if you have other ways of making money, then they're going to ask you what you do anyway. You share what you do. A lot of times they may actually have need for that service or product that you're selling. So I've gotten clients and even sold products strictly just off of people in the back of my car as an Uber driver. They're going to ask you anyway. I say don't be like pushy or bring it up, but Most of them ask anyway, share it, and if they're intrigued, they'll ask you more that might even result in a few sales of your services or products. See, that's something that people online that haven't driven won't actually share because they haven't done it, which is ironic to me because a lot of these people are in sales or they have services to offer, so they would actually benefit greatly from doing it. They can get some new clients, and I just find that kind of ironic that they just crunch the numbers, how much you're making per mile, when you can make more money from the services you offer outside of Uber, and they're perfect candidates. They would know that if they actually drove. So the third reason I became an Uber driver and why it might be appealing to you is because you get the inside scoop of what's going on in your city. I don't care what anyone says. If you become an Uber driver, you're gonna know what's going on in your city. Why? Because you're gonna be taking people to these events and they're gonna be telling you about this is happening or that happening, or if someone else is in the car, let's say you're taking a couple or some friends on while they're having a night out on the town, they're gonna be talking about what they're doing all this weekend or next weekend, and you're gonna quickly realize, man, all this stuff is going on in my city. Do I actually want to attend? Just something to think about. And honestly, this is one of the parts that I really enjoy about it. I mean, I just have the fond memories of taking people, college students, SMU students, which is a college in Dallas in my market, and taking them from point A to point B while they're having a night on the town. Now, I've had plenty of interesting conversations with the SMU students, you know, the typical frat boys, where we're talking about, what do you think a bunch of young males are going to be talking about? The fourth reason, and probably the most stereotypical, is the freedom and the flexibility. So you get to work whenever you want and however you want. You might be wondering exactly what do you mean by however you want. So a lot of the dangerous stuff you probably hear about being an Uber driver, as far as the crazy YouTube videos that have no shortage on this platform, I'm not going to lie and say none of that stuff happened. It did happen. But I will say that like 80 or 90% of it tended to happen at night. So I'm accustomed to think that it probably happened during the bar rush. And the bar rush is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's when you're taking people to and from the bars. And when you're transporting drunk people, there's money there because there's going to be a lot of surge, but you run the risk of running into that kind of stuff. But let's say if you don't want to deal with those type of people because of that scenario that I told you about, well, you can just take people to and from airports. I know people who do strictly airport runs. They don't take people around the city or none of that. They take someone from the airport, then they put their destination filter on, which filters out certain requests. They try and get a request back to the airport, then they repeat. There are people to do that and they make great money, and they don't have to deal with all that stuff which you may see on YouTube as far as a dash cam and videos like that. And when you're dealing with people going to and from airports, by default, they're usually a more affluent crowd, lawyers, CEOs, bankers, families going on vacation, stuff like that. So they're just a better quality of people, if I'm being honest. And just an additional tip, I actually have gotten my highest tips from people coming from the airport too. Reason being is they're going to be in your car for a while, usually because they're going far. And if you got a great personality, you got social skills, you're going to talk their head off and they're going to appreciate it and show you with a tip. And the fifth and final reason why I became an Uber driver and why it might be appealing to you is because you can work as hard or as little as you want. So there are people who are part-time drivers and people who are full-time drivers. And as someone that's been both sides of the spectrum, I started out part-time, then I went full-time, and went back to part-time when some of the stuff I was telling you about started taking off. And I can honestly say that it's just beautiful to have that ability to work as hard or as little as you want. And a lot of times you can use it to complement something you're already doing. Sometimes I might be having a night out of town myself, so I'm heading to central Dallas around 10 p.m. Well, I live in the suburbs, so I can just put on the destination filter and put it to central Dallas. Now, I often end up getting a group of young people who are on their way to Deep Ellum. So I just take them to Deep Ellum, then I go out to my own night on the town. So I got paid to drive to Dallas, which is what I was doing anyway. That's that flexibility coming in, and I just love it. Now, I mentioned that I was going to tell you how being an Uber driver helped launch what I'm doing now. And the reason it helped is because this is what I was doing largely while I was building my online business. Now, I did have things that I could have sold, but I really just like being an Uber driver, if I'm going to be honest. So I just kept doing it while I was building this on the side. And I gradually started putting less hours in being a driver with Uber and putting more hours into making money in the ways I'm doing now. And eventually the scale tips so that I'm doing this more than being an Uber driver. And obviously I'm not doing it now because of the pandemic, but I planned on hitting Uber pretty hard when my book launched, because I knew that people were going to ask me what I did. Like I say, I'm a best-selling author. We have that conversation. End result would most likely be them getting my book while they're in the car. I didn't get that opportunity because the pandemic hit, but it is what it is. But those are 5 reasons why I recommend being an Uber driver. And if those reasons are something that you can get behind, I still recommend it. Now, if you're looking for some kind of sign-on bonus or guarantee, I would recommend you find someone locally, sign up with them, because maybe both of y'all could benefit for something. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And stick around for my next video where I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I decided to be an Uber Eats driver. So that's sharing exactly why I decided to deliver food with Uber Eats. And y'all seem to really be enjoying these videos where I'm breaking down various things that I've done and giving that experience to y'all. So if the reception is good, then I'll keep doing it. But I'll catch you in the next video. Don't forget to get out there and take control of your financial destiny.